Right, 10:32 on up to your station of choice. We jump right on to Broken Body series with Dr. Baggett. Morning, Doc.
Morning, how are you?
I'm good and well. I hope you're well too.
Good, we missed you last week.
Yes, I was not feeling well, but I'm good now.
Good. Well, we're just to recap what's happened over the last couple of weeks since the introduction of Broken Body series on RB2 is we've been talking about leading causes of global death, and of course top of the list, which we completed last week, is heart disease, where we talked about blood pressure, stroke, heart failure, and heart attack, and we're proceeding now to one of the leading other causes of death and disability worldwide, and that is the dreaded diabetes. And, well, tell me, do you know anybody that's diabetic, either in your family or friends that are diabetic?
Honestly, no, Doc.
One of the reasons is that people don't check. You know, we're estimating that probably half of the diabetics in our country as well as globally actually don't know they're diabetic, and it's like most of these chronic diseases, they're actually really very quiet until they suddenly come with a leash of complications. And so that's the reason why a lot of people don't know about diabetes. And so what is it? It basically is a condition where, well, there are two types of diabetes, and the one we're going to be talking about is what we used to call adult onset diabetes, which occurs generally after the age of 30. The type 1 diabetics are the ones that have it at a very small age, at a childhood age, and they lack a particular chemical completely called insulin. This is a hormone that the body manufactures in an organ in the body called the pancreas. And it manufactures this insulin, which is, it gobbles up the sugar in your bloodstream. Whenever you eat a cake or a scone or, a rubbish drink like Coca-Cola, there's huge amounts of sugar in your bloodstream, and the pancreas rushes this chemical insulin to dampen out the fire, because sugar really is something that causes inflammation in the entire body. Now, type 1 diabetics don't have insulin at all for lots of reasons, which we can't go into here, and type 1 diabetics have to be on insulin injections for life, either an injection or a pump. But we're going to talk about the one that is actually leading the cause of death worldwide. Is type 2 diabetes, and we used to call it adult onset, but it actually is occurring in younger and younger people. And the reason why we're having this is because of the growing obesity crisis. You know, you just have to look around you and see people with big tummies and big bums and eating lots of junky foods and lots of billboard signs, and this is the leading cause of type 2 diabetes. And you just have to look at some of the billboards that beckon you to eat a lot of the rubbish that's on the market, and then this is the issue. And we're facing a huge deluge in our country in terms of diabetes. The World Health Organization, which is having its big world congress in Botswana, and we're blessed about that, actually estimates that by 2030, almost 500 million people on this planet will have diabetes. So that's really phenomenal. And it's having a huge cost. And the reason why type 2 diabetes is increasing is as you eat more and more sugary stuff, the body's reserve of insulin begins to die. In other words, you deplete it, or the body becomes resistant to it, and you have what is called insulin resistance. In other words, you need more and more insulin to drop the sugars that you're consuming. So it really is about lifestyle. You know, what are you putting on your plate? And for example, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I haven't had any breakfast.
That's a good one. I like that. That may be deliberate, or it may be an intermittent fast, but it's a really good way because breakfast is, dare I say, an American invention that developed by this guy called Kellogg's, who's the brand for all these Rice Krispies and cornflakes and all the junky stuff that's on the market there, and convince people that breakfast is the most important part of the meal. And it's not. If you think about it, you're just getting up in the morning. Why would you need to have breakfast? But anyway. So the reason why the sugars are increasing is because of the hidden starches in our diet. You know, we're talking about bread and rice and pasta and palici and those fresh chips and pies and pizzas contain huge quantities of sugar, and the body is simply overwhelmed. And, you know, like you are fasting, many people have a big breakfast, have lunch, and have supper. And we don't really need that because most of us, you included, we were sitting most of the time. We sit and we work, we sit and we eat, we sit and we watch television, and so we're not burning some of the sugars, and so the body is overwhelmed and produces a state of insulin resistance, and that's when the sugars begin to rise. And like you say, you don't know anybody who's diabetic, but the problem is when we often admit somebody for example, a road traffic accident or, an injury, and we check the sugar, we find, lo and behold, they've been diabetic for a long time. It's actually estimated that between 10 to 12 years that goes by without you knowing that you're diabetic, and by the time we see a patient in the hospital, they have had diabetes for almost 10 to 15 years, and so it's wreaked havoc in the system. So this is really important. And what are the symptoms of diabetes? Well, it's the commonest ones are lethargy, which basically means you feel tired all the time, and you may think, I've had a long day, I've been out late at night, but this is a growing fatigue. You sleep well and you've exercised, but you still feel tired. The other one is because the sugar is so high in the body needs to flush it into the kidneys, and what it does is it uses water to flush the sugar out into your pee, and as a result, you become thirsty. You drink lots more water, you feel thirsty at night, your mouth is always dry, and you begin to feel dizzy because the sugar begins to affect lots of things. It gets into your brain, it gets into your eyes, it gets into your kidneys, it gets into your liver and your heart, and it begins to pack up all these organs. So those are the symptoms of diabetes. So if you have those symptoms and you don't know if you're diabetic, you're thirsty, if you're dizzy, if you're peeing a lot, go and see the clinic or the doctor. It's very easy to check. It takes literally 5 seconds to check your sugar. We can even check it in the urine. For your information, diabetes mellitus or mellitus actually means a sweet-tasting urine. And in the old days, before we could actually measure sugar, believe it or not, doctors used to taste the urine of a patient.
What do you mean taste?
You used to taste, or if you didn't want to taste, to see if it was sweet. What we used to do, in the 1930s, 1940s, is used to put the sugar, the urine of a diabetic or potential diabetic next to some ants, and if the ants rushed to it, you know that there was sugar there, and lo and behold, that was diabetes. That's what diabetes mellitus means. It means sugary urine. So that's the issue of going to pee frequently at night. Now, the issue is also, people out there will say, well, so what if my sugar's high? What happens? Well, the sugar is basically the most powerful inflammation molecule on the things that you put on your plate. So anything that contains sugar, and people don't realize that, fruit juice, honey, scones and biscuits and cakes, all these things contain sugar. And people think, I'm eating honey, it's natural, but it's natural sugar. I'm drinking fruit juice. It says 100% fruit only. That's because it's got fructose, which is a fruit sugar, and it's just as toxic, if not more toxic. And for example, a glass of orange juice is about the same amount of sugar as a glass of Coca-Cola. People don't realize that, and so stay away from these things. They really are toxic, and eat a balanced diet. So the complications of diabetes are basically the ones that we see in our hospitals. We see blindness because the sugar destroys the eye. We see heart attacks because the sugar blocks up the arteries in your heart. We see kidney failure. One of the commonest causes of kidney failure is actually uncontrolled diabetes, where it blocks up the kidneys and then you're on a machine and you're looking for a transplant. And then, of course, it causes amputations. The commonest cause of amputations is not road traffic accidents, it's actually diabetes. So people who've lost their legs or their arms or whatever it is because what happens is the diabetes blocks the feeling capacity in your legs. So your foot might hit a nail. You don't realize that you've actually punctured your foot, and that foot gets infected, and they come to the hospital with a gangrenous foot, and we have to cut it off. So these are really serious complications of diabetes out there. And like we were saying at the beginning, it really is something that our public needs to know can be prevented. It is curable. It's reversible if you stop eating the junky stuff that we're encouraged to eat these days, and then go back to your traditional food, because it really is something about the lifestyle that we've developed. And by the time the sugars are very high, you have to come to the hospital and we have to start you on treatment. There is good treatment, but you need to go upstream to say, Naka, why have I got this diabetes? What has caused it? And then they'll explain to you that if you change your lifestyle, if you exercise well, if you maintain your weight, and you put away the stuff that previously was in your shopping basket, I promise you, you will actually reverse many of the issues that are got to do with diabetes. So all hospitals, both public and private, have a good collection of diabetic medication, which you may be started on, but always think about how can I reverse this? How can I cure this? How can I stop the pills that I'm taking? And that really is about what you put on your plate. You know, it's your morojo, it's your dinawa, it's your lebelebele, it's your korong. All this food with a high fiber, low glycemic index, low sugar index. You know, your meat and your veggies are safe in terms of containing very little sugar in there. So these are really important things that we harp on every week. We harp on about it, but we just ignore it, you know. So this is really important to understand. Any questions while I pause there?
One question that might come when it comes to diabetes and family. Okay, what I know is if it's been in your family, there's a high chance for you to actually get it. And what I got from you right now, you're saying it's something that you can actually heal from it, like through maybe changing your lifestyle. Is it possible? Like, is it possible for you to actually heal from it, and then maybe you, after you're done with it, you now continue with your life, eating whatever you eat?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, one of the reasons why it runs in families is not genetic. It's because mom and dad ate the wrong food and they're feeding you the wrong food. So a big family, people will say, you know, I come from a big family. It's actually not the truth. What we discover is you're coming from a big family because your family ate the wrong food and are feeding you the wrong habit and lifestyles and eating the wrong food. So yes, there is a genetic element to it, but even if there is a genetic element to it, you know, your genes are not your destiny. They are the if you like, they are the bullets in the gun, but the trigger that triggers the diabetes is the environment in which you operate. So if you are aware that there is a genetic history of diabetes in the family, then you need to be doubly cautious about what you eat and how much you exercise and how you maintain your weight, etc. So yes, it's true that there may be diabetes that runs in the family, but in my experience, a lot of it is actually got to do with poor eating habits, lack of exercise, and just, you know, following what mom and dad ate, and that's the reason why they're heavy. So yes, it is definitely something that can be reversed, if not cured, in terms of maintaining lifestyle. So really it is lifestyle. It's nutrition. And remember, you cannot exercise out of a bad diet, which is the reason why a lot of people who are in the gym are still overweight, because they go home and eat a lot of rubbish stuff. So make sure that the exercise is complemented by first good nutrition. And if you're having any qualms about it, ask your doctor or your clinic exactly what it is I should be avoiding. And you'll find it's very simple. And one of the simple rules we've talked about before is if you're buying something and you look at the box and there's so many complicated chemicals on it, don't buy it. If you can't pronounce the names of the chemicals in the box that contains the thing that you want to buy, it's probably something that you shouldn't be eating. You know, strawberries and bananas and oranges and morojo and spinach don't need a box to tell you this is healthy. This is the issue. Try and eat things that come from the soil rather than come from a box. That's one of the things about diabetic medicine.
All right. Let's get to the complications of diabetes.
Well, the biggest issues with diabetes are blindness, where the sugar blocks up the eye and you can't actually see, and you have to go in for special laser therapy to remove the sugar at the back of your eye. Cataracts, where the lens becomes full of sugar and you have to have those cataracts removed and put artificial lenses. Heart attack, where the heart is just full of sugary treacle and you get a heart attack. Kidney failure, where we'll talk about kidney failure in one of our episodes, where you start feeling nauseous and vomiting, you lose weight, you lose appetite, you smell funny because you're not excreting some of the waste products. We call that a uremic breath, where you smell like pee actually. And amputation, where you're blocking up the arteries in your legs, and you develop infection and gangrene, and you have to actually chop them off and become disabled, unfortunately. So these are the complications we see, and they really are real. We see them on a daily basis in our admission clinics, in the hospitals, in the wards, in the ICU, in the dialysis unit, in the coronary care units. So, you know, we are really affected by this massive epidemic, and it's all got to do with the change in the lifestyle that we've adopted, because we've moved, you know, from, if you like, the cattle post to the car, and we've forgotten how to do some of the things we did decades ago.
All right. I think for now, Doc, any last words?
I think we've done it to death. Yeah. So next week we're moving on, and we're going to be talking about something equally interesting. We're going to be talking about lung disease. What is lung disease, for example? What is asthma? What is emphysema? What is bronchitis? Because this is also one of the commonest issues that we face in our country. And we'll talk about that next week.
Ooh, interesting one. I can't wait. Till next week. Have a great one.
You too.
Bye. All right. It is 10:48 on our station of choice.